I didn't realize how quietly a life could be dismissed until the moment my father lifted his glass and decided my future wasn't worth funding. The backyard lights were already on, strung unevenly between the fence and the patio beam, flickering like they were tired of pretending too. Smoke from the grill clung to everything: my hair, my clothes, my throat. Someone laughed too loud. Someone else clinked ice in a glass. It was supposed to be one of those casual family nights: burgers, beer, small talk. Then my father cleared his throat. He didn't stand. He didn't look at me. He just raised his bottle slightly, like a man proposing a toast he'd already rehearsed. "We've decided to put real money behind Evan," he said. 100 grand. Austin. The program. The connections. It's an investment. My brother grinned before anyone finished clapping. He always did that, celebrated early, like the world was contractually obligated to follow through. Someone whistled. My mother smiled into her wine. Plates shifted. The grill hissed. I waited. Not because I expected fairness, but because silence has a way of daring people to reveal themselves. "What about me?" I asked. My voice didn't shake. I made sure of that. I mentioned the certification program, the one I've been saving toward. My mother didn't turn around. She kept her eyes on the table, straightening napkins that were already straight. "That's different," she said. My father finally looked at me then. Not angry, not surprised, just bored. "You're grown, Lena," he said. "You'll figure it out." That was the first snap. Quiet, internal, like a hairline crack in glass. Before the story goes any further, if you've ever had family treat you like you don't matter, like your effort doesn't qualify as potential, do me a favor. Hit like, subscribe. Not because this is entertainment, but because chances are you've lived a version of this too, and you'll want to hear how it ends. My brother leaned back in his chair, arms folded, smug, already settling in. "It's not personal," he said. "Dad just knows where the return is." Return? As if I were a bad stock. I nodded once, slowly. "The way you do when you're deciding whether to walk away or flip the table." "I've been working 2 jobs," I said. "I've paid for every class myself." My father shrugged. "And that builds character." There it was. The script. Hard work for me. Opportunity for him. My mother finally looked at me. Her smile was tight, practiced. "You're too sensitive," she said. "Why do you always make things awkward?" The word awkward landed heavier than the money ever could. I felt my fingers curl around the edge of the table. The plastic dug into my palm. I loosened my grip before anyone noticed. No one deserved that reaction. Not yet. Evan laughed. "See? This is why they worry about you. You take everything so personally." I looked at my brother. Really looked. The clean shirt my mother bought him. The watch my father gave him last Christmas. The ease. The certainty. He'd never once had to prove he was worth the cost. "I didn't ask to be worried about," I said. "I asked to be considered." My father's jaw tightened. Just slightly. "This conversation is over." The grill timer went off. Sharp, loud, final. My mother stood and turned the burner down her back to me again. "You always do this," she said. "You turn support into a competition." Support. I almost laughed. I pushed my chair back. The legs scraped the concrete, too loud, too honest. A few heads turned. My aunt paused mid-sip. Someone pretended to check their phone. I reached into my pocket and felt my own phone there. Cold glass. One missed notification from my bank app. Still not enough. "I'm going to head out," I said. My father didn't stop me. My brother didn't look up. My mother sighed like I'd just ruined dessert. "Don't be dramatic," she said. "We're doing what's best for the family." That was the second snap. I walked through the house to grab my bag. The lights inside were too bright, buzzing softly overhead. The dishwasher hummed in the kitchen, drowning out whatever conversation resumed the moment I left the patio. Plates clinked. Life went on. In my room, everything I owned fit into a single duffel. Laptop, chargers, a folder of certificates no one had ever asked to see. I zipped it closed slowly, deliberately. Each tooth of the zipper sounded like punctuation. My phone buzzed, a message from Evan. "Don't make this weird." I didn't reply. When I walked back out, my mother intercepted me near the sliding door. She grabbed my arm, not hard, but firm enough to remind me she still thought she had authority. "You're embarrassing us," she said under her breath. "People are watching." I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, then back at her face. "You decided I wasn't worth investing in," I said. "What did you think would happen?" Her eyes flashed. "Not guilt, irritation. You always twist things," she said. "This victim act is exhausting." Victim. That word was her favorite. It made everything my fault without requiring her to change a thing. My father appeared behind her. "If you walk out now," he said, "don't expect us to bail you out later." I met his eyes. Calm, clear. "I never asked you to." He scoffed. "That's because you don't plan ahead." I stepped back. The night air hit my face cooler than before. The grill smoke followed me out like a ghost. My brother called after me. "Good luck out there," he said. "The real world's not forgiving." I stopped, turned once. "Just enough." "Neither is this one," I said. I pulled my arm free from my mother's grip. She stared at me like she'd just lost something she didn't realize she owned. As I walked down the driveway, my phone chimed. Ride confirmed. 5 minutes. Behind me, my mother's voice cut through the noise of laughter and music, sharp and final. "Don't come back asking why we chose him." That was the third snap, and this time, nothing in me broke. Something hardened instead. I didn't wake up independent. I was trained into it. Long before that night in the backyard, before the beer bottles and the $100,000 announcement, the pattern was already carved into the walls of our house. I just didn't have language for it yet. Evan was encouraged. I was prepared. There's a difference. When Evan showed interest in something, anything, it became a family project. When he said he liked business, my father bought him books with glossy covers and bold titles. Strategy, leadership, winning. They stacked neatly on his desk, unread but admired. When he mentioned politics one summer, my mother signed him up for a youth conference and bragged to relatives about his future. "He's got vision," she'd say, like she'd personally installed it. When I showed interest in things, I was given lessons, not opportunities. Lessons. "You should learn how to manage expectations," my father told me when I said I wanted to take a creative writing class. "Dreams are fine," my mother added, "but practicality matters more." So instead of classes, I got lectures. Instead of encouragement, I got warnings. Every birthday proved the point. Evan's gifts came with applause, noise, anticipation. They were wrapped carefully, Bose-centered cameras ready. A new tablet, a professional backpack, a watch that cost more than my monthly expenses. "These will open doors," my father said once, fastening the watch around Evan's wrist. My gifts came in envelopes, not cards. Envelopes. Inside were things meant to teach me something. A prepaid bus pass, a budgeting notebook, a sticky note with a quote about resilience written in my mother's careful handwriting. "This will help you stand on your own," she'd say, smiling, like she'd done me a favor. Stand on your own. That phrase followed me everywhere. It excused everything they withheld. If I struggled, it was character building. If Evan struggled, it was a system failure. When Evan stayed up late studying, my parents whispered encouragement through his door. When I stayed up late working, my light got turned off. "You need sleep," my mother said. "Burnout won't get you anywhere." But Evan's exhaustion was called dedication. Mine was called poor planning. By high school, I learned not to ask for much. Asking created expectations, and expectations led to disappointment. So I stopped. I found the public library on my own. A brick building that smelled like paper and carpet cleaner, quiet, reliable. It didn't care who my parents were or what they thought of me. I spent afternoons there, headphones in, teaching myself things I didn't have names for yet. Editing software, online tutorials, free courses that ended with certificates no one ever asked to see. The computers were slow, the chairs were uncomfortable, the air conditioning worked only when it felt like it. But no one told me I was wasting my time. That mattered. I remember the first small thing I made that felt like mine, a short project, rough, imperfect, but finished. I printed the confirmation page at the library, black ink on thin white paper, and folded it carefully before putting it in my bag. At home, my father was in the garage wiping grease off his hands. I completed something I said. It placed. He glanced at the paper, didn't take it. "That's nice," he said. "But does it pay?" I waited, just a second longer than necessary. "No," I said. He nodded satisfied. "Then don't get attached." Inside, my mother was helping Evan rehearse a presentation. She corrected his tone, his posture, his pauses, every word polished. "Can you look at this later?" I asked, holding the paper out. She waved a hand without turning. "Later, Lena. This is important." Later never came. My achievements lived in drawers. Evan's lived on walls, certificates framed, photos posted, stories retold at holidays. This is the one who's going places, my father said once, clapping Evan on the back. No one clapped for me, so I learned to clap for myself. Quietly, internally, without witnesses. By the time I was old enough to understand what was happening, the damage was already organized. Evan believed he was exceptional. I believed I was temporary, not useless. Temporary. Someone you don't invest in because you don't expect a return. Every family gathering reinforced it. Evan's future discussed openly. My plans reduced to polite nods. "That's interesting," someone would say. "So, what's your backup?" No one ever asked Evan that. I stopped sharing details. Not out of spite, out of efficiency. Information given to the wrong people gets misused. Instead, I built quietly. At night, on weekends, between shifts. I learned to work without praise, to finish things without an audience, to measure progress without permission. There was a strange freedom in being overlooked. No pressure to perform for them, no expectations to meet. Just work. Still, it left a mark. Because when no one asks how you're doing, you start to believe the answer doesn't matter. The night in the backyard didn't come out of nowhere. It was the final slide in a long presentation I'd been sitting through my entire life. When my father raised that glass, he wasn't choosing Evan. He'd already chosen him years ago. All that night did was make it official. And as I stood there listening to applause, meant for someone else, something clicked into place. They didn't forget me. They never noticed me to begin with. I didn't announce that I was leaving. I didn't pack dramatically. I didn't slam doors or send goodbye texts meant to be reread later with regret. I didn't even tell anyone where I was going. I just stopped being there. The morning after the barbecue, the house was quiet in that uncomfortable way, like everyone was pretending nothing had happened. The smell of leftover smoke still clung to my clothes. My phone lay face down on the dresser. I hadn't checked it since the ride home. I opened my closet and pulled out the one suitcase I owned that still had all four wheels. I packed what I needed, not what looked good. Clothes that worked, shoes that could handle walking, my laptop, chargers, a folder of documents, no keepsakes, no photos, nothing sentimental enough to slow me down. Downstairs, the coffee maker clicked off. Cups clinked. Normal sounds. Normal lies. My mother passed the hallway while I zipped the suitcase. She glanced in, eyes flicking to the bag, then away. "You're not serious," she said. I didn't answer. She folded her arms. "Where are you even going?" "Somewhere quieter," I said. She scoffed. "You'll be back." I rolled the suitcase past her. The wheels bumped once on the step. She didn't move out of the way. "You always do this," she said. "You leave instead of fixing things." I stopped. Looked at her. Really looked. "You never tried to fix me," I said. "You just adjusted around me." She opened her mouth, closed it, then said the thing she always said when she lost control of the conversation. "You're being dramatic." I walked out. No one followed me. No one called my name. The front door closed behind me with a soft click, not even loud enough to count as punctuation. At the airport, everything smelled like disinfectant and coffee. I bought a ticket with money I'd been saving for something else. One way. While I waited to board, my phone buzzed. A text from Evan. "Mom says you're overreacting." I turned the phone off. The plane lifted smoothly, almost gently. I watched the city shrink through the window. Streets folding into lines, houses into shapes, my life into something manageable. I didn't feel brave. I felt calm. That's how I knew it was the right choice. Aunt Marjorie met me at the terminal. She stood near the exit doors holding a plain cardboard sign with my name written in block letters. No balloons, no questions, just presence. She hugged me like she already knew what had happened. "You hungry?" she asked. That was it. Not where are you staying. Not what did they say. Not how long are you here. Just, "You hungry?" Her apartment was small and clean. Plants on the windowsill, books stacked everywhere, the kind of place that felt lived in, not staged. She showed me the guest room. Fresh sheets, an empty drawer, a lamp already plugged in. "Stay as long as you need," she said. "Here's the Wi-Fi." That night, we sat at the kitchen table with takeout containers between us. She didn't pry. She didn't fill the silence. She let me talk when I was ready. "They never said I was worthless," I finally said. "They just acted like I was." She nodded. That cuts deeper. The next morning, she left early for work. I stayed behind, sitting on the edge of the bed, listening to the city wake up. Sirens, footsteps, life moving forward without asking permission. I started with whatever work I could find. Cafe shifts, temp gigs, deliveries, jobs that didn't care about my background or my feelings, only whether I showed up on time. I showed up. At night, I worked on my skills. Same routine as before, just without the noise of disappointment. Free resources, trial software, online forums where no one knew my last name. I learned fast. I also learned who not to trust. There was a man who promised quick money for creative consulting, asked for an upfront fee. I almost paid it. My hand hovered over the transfer button. Aunt Marjorie glanced at my phone. "That's a scam," she said. Flat. Certain. "How do you know?" "Because real opportunities don't need your desperation." I canceled the payment. There was another one, an agency that offered exposure instead of pay. I laughed this time and closed the tab. Each near miss sharpened me. Each small win steadied me. I stopped waiting for someone to notice. I started building as if no one ever would. My aunt watched quietly. She didn't manage me. She didn't mentor me with speeches. She just corrected my posture sometimes when I slouched over my laptop. "Sit like you belong here," she'd say. Belong. That word felt unfamiliar, but not unwelcome. Weeks passed, then months. I didn't post updates. I didn't check their social media. I didn't wonder what they were saying about me, because for the first time my life wasn't happening in response to them. It was happening because of me. One night after a long shift, I came home to find a note on my bed, written in my aunt's neat handwriting. "You're not a burden here." I sat down and stared at it longer than necessary. Something shifted. Leaving without drama didn't make me weak. It made me dangerous in the quiet way. Because when you leave without noise, people don't realize you're gone until they need you, and by then you've already learned how to live without them. Success didn't arrive with fireworks. It came quietly. Invoices paid on time. Emails answered without hesitation. Names I didn't recognize using my work without asking who I was related to. That was the best part. I started landing small projects first. The kind people call good exposure when they don't expect much from you. I delivered anyway, early, clean, better than promised. One client led to another. A recommendation slid into my inbox from someone I'd never met in person. Then another, then a third. I kept my head down. While Evan's life had always been loud announcements, posts, applause, mine grew in silence. I didn't update my family. I didn't post progress photos. I didn't leave breadcrumbs pointing back to where I came from. My social media stayed boring on purpose. No motivational quotes, no before and after shots, no vague captions about grinding. I learned early that visibility invites entitlement. Instead, I let my work speak in rooms I wasn't in. A brand reached out, then an agency, then someone bigger asking if I could handle more volume. I could. I worked longer hours, but they were my hours. I chose the pace. I chose the clients. I chose when to say no. Money followed competence. Slowly at first, then all at once. I upgraded my equipment, paid off debts, built a buffer, the kind of financial quiet that lets you sleep through the night. My aunt noticed before I said anything. "You're standing differently," she said one morning watching me pour coffee. "Like you're not bracing for impact anymore." I shrugged. "I'm just tired." She smiled. That too. The turning point came without warning. A message from a journalist I didn't know. Short, direct. "We're doing a feature." Your name came up. Interested. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. "Yes," I typed, then put the phone down like it might explode. The article came out on a Tuesday. No headline drama. Just a paragraph. My name, my work, my trajectory, no mention of family, no origin story that included sacrifice on their part, just facts. That's when the phone started ringing. First a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Mom." I didn't respond. Then another. "Saw the article. Proud of you. Proud." The word looked unfamiliar coming from her. I left it on read. The calls came next. Missed. Voicemail. Missed again. My father's voice this time. Measured. Careful. "Give us a call when you have a moment," he said. "We should talk." We. The word family members use when they want to sound united while reaching for something. I didn't call back. A few days later, Evan messaged. "Didn't know you were doing all this. No congratulations. No apology. Just surprise." Followed by, "Things have been kind of stressful here." There it was, the soft entry point. I muted the thread. Another article ran the next month, this one bigger. A list. My name included among others who were ones to watch. My aunt clipped it and taped it to the fridge without saying a word. That night my mother called again. I answered this time. Not out of hope, out of curiosity. Her voice was lighter than I remembered. Sweet, almost rehearsed. "We've been meaning to reach out," she said. "Life's just been so busy." I let the silence stretch. "We didn't realize how well you were doing," she continued. "You should have told us." I smiled, not because it was funny, because it was predictable. "I didn't think you'd be interested," I said. She laughed softly. "Oh, don't be like that. You know we worry about you." Worry. Another word they use selectively. Then came the shift. "Your father's been under a lot of pressure," she said. "The market's been unpredictable." I leaned back in my chair, watched the city through the window, traffic moving, people going places without asking permission. "He mentioned maybe you'd have some insight," she added. "You're in those circles now." There it was. Not pride, not reconciliation, utility. "We're family," she said quickly like a reminder. "We help each other." I didn't answer right away. She filled the space. "Evan's been handling a lot too. He could use guidance. Connections. Connections. Not love. Not regret. Access." "I'll think about it," I said. She sounded relieved. "Of course. Take your time." The next day, Evan called. He skipped small talk entirely. "You don't have to ghost us," he said. "That's kind of messed up." I waited. "You've changed," he added. "Money does that, I guess." I almost laughed. "You didn't change when you had it," I said. "You just had it." Silence. "Then quieter, Dad's business isn't doing great." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. I figured. They might need help. There it was again. Might. A few weeks later, the requests became clearer. Spreadsheets sent just for perspective. Invitations framed as celebrations. Hints disguised as nostalgia. "Remember when we all used to sit together?" My mother sent a photo of a family dinner. Everyone smiling. An empty chair at the end. "Wish you were here." I archived it. The power shift didn't feel triumphant. It felt cold. Because once you see conditional love clearly, you can't unsee it. They hadn't reached out when I was struggling. They hadn't asked when I was learning. They hadn't noticed when I was building. They noticed when my name carried weight. That was the condition. I didn't argue. I didn't confront. I didn't explain. I just stopped responding with urgency. Their messages came faster, then longer, then emotional. "We just want to reconnect. Family is all we have. Don't shut us out." But I wasn't shutting them out. I was standing still. And for the first time, they were the ones running toward me. That's when I understood something important. Success doesn't change people. It reveals them. And the people who only love you when you're useful were never loving you at all. They stopped pretending eventually. The messages lost their softness. The calls stopped dancing around the point. What they wanted became blunt, dressed up only enough to sound respectable. My father emailed first, not from his personal account, from work. Subject line, quick conversation. Inside were numbers, projections, a short paragraph about temporary liquidity issues, and a longer one about reputation. "We've built something respectable," he wrote. "It would be a shame to see it damaged when a simple investment could stabilize things." Investment. Not help, not apology, not acknowledgement. I didn't reply. My mother tried next. She switched tactics the way she always did when authority failed straight to guilt. "People are talking," she said on the phone. "They're asking why you haven't come around." "What do you want me to say?" I pictured her pacing the kitchen phone pressed tight to her ear, already rehearsing her version of events. "You can say whatever makes you comfortable," I said. A sharp inhale. "This isn't about comfort. This is about family. It always was when they needed something." Evan sent a voice message. His tone was different this time, less confidence, more edge. "You don't have to make this a thing," he said. "We're not asking for charity. Just support. You owe us that much." "Oh." I listened to it twice. The word didn't soften with repetition. Invitations followed, a dinner, a celebration, a reset, each one framed as reconciliation, each one carrying an unspoken price tag. My aunt read the messages over my shoulder one evening. She didn't comment right away, just poured herself the glass of water and sat down. "They're testing your boundaries," she said finally, "to see if they still move." "They don't," I said. She nodded. "Good." The final ask came wrapped in ceremony. A gala invitation arrived in the mail. Thick paper, gold lettering, my name printed neatly at the bottom like an afterthought. My mother called the same afternoon. "This would mean so much to your father," she said. "People expect family to show up." "What do you expect?" I asked. A pause, then honesty finally. "They expect you to help," she said. I declined the invitation. The silence that followed was loud. A week later, I attended a different event. The room was vast and quiet in that controlled way only expensive spaces manage. Soft lighting, clean lines, people speaking in lowered voices like they were afraid to disturb the air itself. My name appeared on the program, not as a guest, as a contributor. As I stood backstage, microphone waiting on the podium, I thought of the first envelope I'd ever been given. The bus pass. The lesson disguised as generosity. I stepped into the light. "I didn't grow up with access," I said. My voice was steady. "I grew up with expectations, mostly the kind that tell you to be grateful for less." The room listened. So tonight I continued, "I'm funding a scholarship for people who were told to figure it out on their own. Not because struggle builds character, but because opportunity builds futures." Applause followed, real applause, not polite, not obligatory. I didn't scan the crowd. I didn't need to. Later, near the exit, my mother found me. Her smile was brittle, her eyes sharp. "That money," she said low, "that could have saved us." I looked at her. Really looked. "You never tried to save me," I said. My father appeared behind her face, tight with embarrassment and anger. Evan lingered a few steps back, eyes on the floor. "This is about pride now," my father said. "You're making a point." I shook my head. "No, I'm drawing a line." My mother's voice dropped. "You're choosing strangers over blood." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. "I'm choosing people who won't ask me to disappear once they've taken what they need," I said. "They didn't follow me out. They didn't have to." The fallout came quietly. A business deal collapsed. Then another. Whispers replaced confidence. Evan's updates grew sparse, then bitter, then silent. I heard through relatives secondhand always that things weren't going well. I wished them no harm. I just didn't step in front of it. Months passed. My life settled into a rhythm that didn't include waiting for permission or approval. Morning routines, work I cared about, evenings that didn't feel like recovery. Peace turned out to be simple when no one was actively undermining it. One evening, my aunt and I sat on the balcony, city lights blinking on one by one. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "I didn't lose anything." She smiled. "You gained everything they couldn't give you." I thought about the versions of myself they'd ignored. The quiet kid, the one with envelopes instead of applause, the one who learned early not to ask. Walking away hadn't been dramatic, it hadn't been loud, it hadn't been revenge, it had been survival, and for the first time that was enough.